Charlotte reveals shocking secret right at Rocco's trial. ABC General Hospital spoilers. Port Charles had seen its share of chaos, mob wars, miraculous returns from the dead, secret twins crawling out of the shadows, and enough romantic triangles to make the whole town dizzy, but nothing compared to the electric tension that settled over the courthouse on this cold November morning. A gray, unforgiving sky hung low over the city as people filed inside the courthouse, their voices hushed, their eyes darting nervously. Rumors had spread like wildfire for weeks. Rocco Falconeri, Lulu and Dante's son, the sweet kid everyone remembered racing around Kelly's, was now at the center of one of the most explosive cases the town had seen since the Cassadine murders decades earlier. The charge was severe. The town was divided. Families were breaking down. And a secret, one buried so deeply even the Cassadines whispered about it, was about to erupt. Only one person held the key. Charlotte Cassadine. The girl who many believed had inherited Valentine's fire, Lulu's determination, and every dangerous secret the Cassadine name carried. But no one expected she would speak today. No one imagined she would walk right into the courtroom and blow the case apart. And certainly no one understood the cost she had paid to keep the truth hidden for so long. Rocco Falconeri sat stiffly beside his attorney, Alexis Davis, his usually expressive face blank. He was 19 now, older, stronger, more complicated than the boy Port Charles remembered. His jaw was set, his eyes distant, as if he were already preparing for a life behind bars. Dante Falconeri sat behind him, hands clenched so tightly that his knuckles were white. Olivia was beside him, her rosary wrapped so tightly around her fingers it cut into her skin. Ned stood behind them both like a silent guardian. Family was family, and Falconeris stuck together. Lulu, alive but still recovering from her long coma, watched with a mix of heartbreak and disbelief. She had returned only months earlier, thrust into a world that had moved on without her. And now her son, the boy she had dreamed of during every silent hour in that hospital bed, was fighting for his freedom. The charge? Accessory to attempted murder. The victim? A teenage classmate, Liam Mercer, who had been pushed off the balcony at a party. Liam survived, but barely. His parents wanted justice. The PCPD wanted answers. And the DA wanted a conviction that would satisfy the terrified parents of the town's teens. But the evidence was messy. There were contradictions. Missing footage. Disappearing witnesses. And one name kept appearing over and over again in whispers. Charlotte Cassadine. Yet she had not been called to testify. She had vanished from public view since graduating, staying mostly inside the Cassadine mansion under Valentine's watch. Some said it was grief over Lulu. Others said she had inherited too much Cassadine darkness. Only Valentine knew the truth. And he had sworn he would never let it come out. But secrets have a way of clawing to the surface when the stakes are high. During the break before testimony resumed, Lulu approached Rocco. Her voice trembled as she touched his arm. Rocco, baby, please, just tell me the truth. He didn't meet her eyes. Mom. I already did. Dante closed his eyes. Lulu swallowed hard. I know you think you're protecting someone. I can see it. You look just like Dante did when he was your age. That same storm. Tell us who you're covering for. Rocco shook his head. I'm not covering for anyone. But his voice cracked, just enough for Lulu to feel the truth. He was protecting someone. She didn't know who. Not yet. But she knew someone was pulling him down with them. And she knew her son well enough to know this. He would let himself burn before letting that person suffer. The bailiff called for people to return to their seats. Dante turned back toward the courtroom when a sudden wave of whispers rippled through the hall. Olivia gasped. Ned whispered, "Oh, my God." Lulu froze. Because walking through the courthouse doors was Charlotte Cassadine. Older. Taller. Paler. Dressed in a fitted black coat that made her look like a ghost walking among the living. Her shoulders were squared, her chin held high, but her eyes looked bruised by secrets she could no longer hide. Valentine rushed behind her, panic etched all over his face. Charlotte, no. You don't have to do this. She didn't look back at him. Dad, it's done. It's time. Valentine grabbed her arm. The judge didn't subpoena you. You don't have to testify. Charlotte pulled her arm free with surprising strength. I'm not testifying because I was asked to. I'm testifying because it's the only way to save him. Valentine followed her gaze. To Rocco. Dante rose halfway from his seat in shock. Lulu's hand flew to her mouth. Charlotte kept walking. Every eye in the courtroom followed her. Even the judge paused, confused, as Charlotte stepped into the center aisle, voice ringing through the room like a dagger thrown straight at the truth.
"Your Honor," she said.
"I have a confession."
Judge Harper lifted a brow. "Miss Cassadine, you are not on the witness list."
"The court did not call you."
"I know," Charlotte replied, voice steady but soft. "But you're about to convict the wrong person."
The DA, Millie Turner, stood sharply. "Your Honor, this is highly inappropriate."
Valentin jumped in.
"Your Honor, my daughter is under immense emotional distress. She has been struggling."
"Dad," Charlotte said, not turning toward him.
"Please stop."
The room fell silent again. Charlotte stepped closer to the witness stand.
"If you send Rocco to prison," she said, "you'll be letting the real guilty person walk free."
Lulu let out a strangled gasp.
Dante whispered, "Charlotte, what are you doing?"
But Charlotte didn't look at them.
Her eyes were on the judge.
"Your Honor," she said.
"I need to take the stand." After a long, tense moment, Judge Harper sighed. "Miss Cassadine, if you insist on testifying, the court will allow it. But be warned, lying under oath carries severe penalties."
Charlotte exhaled shakily. "I'm not lying." Valentin sank weakly into the pew. He knew what she was about to do. And he knew it would destroy everything he'd built to protect her. But nothing could stop her now. Charlotte sat down.
Her hands were trembling, so she folded them tightly in her lap. "State your name for the record." "Charlotte Helena Cassadine." Several people whispered at the use of her full name, especially the middle one. The judge nodded. "Proceed."
Charlotte took a long breath. "I was at the party that night. I saw everything."
"And what happened to Liam wasn't Rocco's fault."
Dante leaned forward. Alexis quickly rose. "Your Honor, may I cross-examine?"
"This witness may provide exculpatory evidence."
"Proceed."
Alexis stepped gently toward Charlotte, her tone soft but sharp. "Charlotte, can you tell us exactly what happened that night?"
Charlotte nodded slowly.
"It started with a fight." "A fight between who?"
Alexis asked. Charlotte swallowed.
"Between me and Liam."
A ripple of shock burst across the courtroom. Lulu gasped. Dante stared. Valentin put his head in his hands. Charlotte continued.
"Liam and I had been seeing each other.
Off and on.
Secretly."
She closed her eyes. "He told me he wanted to go public. But I wasn't ready. I didn't want everyone to know. I thought," her voice cracked, "I thought they'd say he was slumming.
"That he shouldn't date a Cassadine. That I wasn't good enough."
No one made a sound. Charlotte gripped the stand tighter. "He got angry. I panicked."
"And Rocco, he saw us yelling, and he stepped in to make sure I was okay."
Alexis nodded gently.
"And what happened next?"
Charlotte stared straight ahead. "Liam grabbed my arm. Rocco shoved him to get him away from me. Liam lost his balance. He stumbled backwards.
"He fell over the balcony railing."
A stunned silence filled the room. "But Rocco didn't push him," Charlotte whispered.
"He was trying to protect me." The courtroom erupted. Gasps, shouts, cries.
The judge slammed his gavel.
"Order! Order!" Dante exhaled shakily, his eyes filling with tears. Lulu clutched her chest, tears streaming down her cheeks. Rocco finally looked at Charlotte, really looked at her, for the first time since she entered. His expression was a mix of shock and fear, because he knew she was only telling half the truth. Alexis gathered herself. "Charlotte, thank you for being honest with the court. But earlier, the DA presented testimony from another student claiming Rocco threatened Liam earlier that evening.
Can you explain that?"
Charlotte's face drained of color. "Yes," she said softly. "Because Liam threatened him first." The DA shot to her feet. "Objection. This is hearsay." Charlotte snapped, her voice rising with a sudden flare of Cassadine fire.
"He threatened me.
He said he'd tell people things about me, private things, if I didn't do what he wanted.
Rocco heard him.
That's why he got involved."
Her voice broke. "He wasn't jealous. He wasn't angry.
He was protecting me." Alexis nodded sympathetically. "Charlotte, why didn't you say this earlier?"
Charlotte hesitated. Her eyes flickered toward Valentin. The reason was written all over her face.
Because Valentin had told her to stay silent. Because Valentin Cassadine protected his family at all costs.
Charlotte's voice was a whisper. Because I was scared. Alexis softened.
Of what?
Charlotte turned toward Rocco.
Of losing him.
A gasp rippled through the courtroom.
Lulu froze.
Dante stared straight ahead, stunned. Rocco's face flushed with shock.
Charlotte inhaled shakily.
I loved him, she said.
I still do.
The courtroom erupted again. Judge Harper pounded the gavel so hard it sounded like thunder.
Order.
But nothing could silence the storm that Charlotte had unleashed.
Dante looked at Rocco, completely blindsided. You and Charlotte.
Rocco's face was red, his jaw tight. Dad.
Lulu whispered, horrified. My son and a Cassadine?
Oh God.
Olivia clutched Ned's arm. This isn't just a trial anymore. This is a whole mess of family history coming back to haunt everybody. But Alexis lifted a hand. Charlotte, you said Rocco was protecting you.
But pushing Liam was an accident. That means Rocco should not be charged with intent or malice.
However, the DA argues there is missing evidence.
Security camera footage was tampered with. Do you know anything about that? Charlotte froze.
Valentin's eyes widened with fear.
Don't, he mouthed silently. Charlotte's hands shook violently. She swallowed.
And in a raw voice, she revealed a secret that would change everything. I deleted the footage.
Gasps. Shouts. Valentin stood abruptly.
Your Honor, my daughter is suffering from a fragile emotional condition. Sit down, Mr. Cassadine, the judge snapped. Charlotte continued, tears spilling down her cheeks. I deleted the footage because it showed I was with Liam.
I didn't want my family to know. I didn't want Rocco dragged into it.
I didn't want anyone to see how vulnerable I looked.
She looked at Rocco again.
I never meant for him to get in trouble. I thought if the footage was gone, the investigation would stall.
But then the rumors started.
The accusations.
And Rocco, he tried to take the fall for me.
Dante whispered, he would.
Charlotte nodded. He always protected me. Even when he hated me. Even when we fought.
Even when he promised he'd never get pulled into my family's drama again. She wiped her face. But I drag him in anyway. Alexis inhaled deeply, then said the words that would seal the courtroom's fate. Charlotte, is there anything else the court needs to know?
Charlotte hesitated. Her eyes darkened.
And when she spoke, her voice was barely audible. Yes, she said. There's one more thing.
The room leaned in. Charlotte took a long breath.
The truth is, Liam didn't fall by accident.
People gasped again. Valentin went pale. Lulu clutched Dante's arm.
Charlotte continued, voice trembling.
When Rocco pushed him, Liam grabbed the railing. He didn't fall.
He was holding on. Tears slid down her cheeks. But Liam looked up and said, I'm going to ruin you both.
Her voice cracked. He said he'd expose everything about us. Every secret. Every mistake. Rocco's eyes widened with horror.
Charlotte, no.
Charlotte whispered the final blow.
So I pried his fingers off the railing.
The entire room froze. Absolute silence. Not even breathing. Charlotte Cassadine had just confessed
to attempted murder. Valentin jumped to his feet, shouting, Stop.
You are not doing this.
Dante stared in horror. Lulu collapsed into her seat, sobbing. The DA shouted, Your Honor, we need a recess. No, we need immediate custody of this witness. The judge pounded his gavel. Everyone sit down.
Rocco stood abruptly. She's lying.
She didn't do anything. It was me. Charlotte screamed. No, it wasn't. You were trying to save me. The judge cut through the chaos. Miss Cassadine, are you saying you intentionally removed Liam Mercer's grasp, causing him to fall? Charlotte nodded slowly, tears running down her pale face.
Yes, I did.
And with those words, a new storm overtook Port Charles.
Charlotte was taken into custody.
Valentin fought like a man possessed, shouting at officers, demanding they release her, screaming that she wasn't well. Dante tried to shield Rocco, but Rocco refused to leave without seeing Charlotte again. Lulu, still fragile, still rebuilding her life, was torn apart by the idea that her son had sacrificed everything for a girl who carried Cassadine blood and Cassadine secrets. Olivia and Ned ushered their shaken family home. Alexis immediately filed for dismissal of all charges against Rocco. But the DA wanted to investigate.
Wanted to verify. Wanted blood.
Charlotte, meanwhile, sat in a holding cell, silent, pale, empty, waiting for Valentin. And when he arrived, she whispered the words that shattered him.
Dad.
It wasn't an accident.
Valentin's heart broke. Because now he knew. Now everyone knew.
What Charlotte had become. What the Cassadine legacy had turned her into. 2 days later, in a private meeting with her new court-appointed psychiatrist, Charlotte revealed the truth no one else had heard. The truth she couldn't say in court. The truth that would change everything again. I didn't mean to kill Liam, she whispered. But I didn't just do it to protect myself.
She looked hollow. Haunted.
Someone told me to.
The psychiatrist frowned. Who?
Charlotte looked at the wall. The woman who visits me. The one no one else sees. Charlotte, who? Her voice dropped to a whisper. My grandmother. Helena.
Charlotte nodded. She told me. Cassadines eliminate threats. They do not cry about them.
The psychiatrist went pale.
Charlotte.
Helena Cassadine is dead. Charlotte looked up with ice-cold certainty. Not to me. News of Charlotte's confession tore through Port Charles like wildfire.
Rocco was cleared. But he wasn't free. He carried guilt.
Love.
Fear.
And confusion that cut deeper than any accusation. Lulu and Dante now faced the impossible task of guiding their son through trauma, heartbreak, and a lifetime of what ifs. Valentin faced his greatest fear. That he had lost Charlotte to the Cassadine curse. And the town of Port Charles?
It braced itself. Because Helena's shadow had risen again. Through Charlotte. And the real question was, someone alive? Someone dangerous? Someone Cassadine?
The trial was over.
But the war had just begun.